Hey, everybody. Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
Dean, we've talked about the quest for a contactless world many times over. Maybe
Yes,
it's my own personal quest.
It is a little personal thing that you got going on over there, but yes.
I do enjoy, and it's not even so much the germ thing. I know we make fun of that a lot. It's also just the self-sufficiency, the self-service aspect.
It's a lot more efficient.
Like. Exactly. So that's kind of going to be a little bit of our topic today. We're going to get into ID and access management, specifically those fun little smart cards. I know we have like little fobs that we use in the office, but a lot of places will use an actual badge of some sort that you can code in a way so to let you get building access. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We've got Sean Barrett from Evolis joining us today. He's going to help us talk a little bit about, first of all, the history of this, kind of how we got to where we are with these RFID and NFC smart cards. We're going to talk about how COVID has changed the conversation, obviously.
What? No.
Shockingly. COVID has changed the conversation.
I don't believe
Is there any conversations you think COVID hasn't changed?
Probably not at this point.
I don't think so.
No.
We're going to get into the printing and encoding of these cards. That's Evolis' specialty. They have fantastic printers that get the job done with this kind of stuff. And explain, how you can kind of tweak and change the way your cards are designed or encoded to meet your particular use. And then we'll also get into the beyond the building and room access. That's what most people think of when they think of these cards, but there's a lot more applications.
So much more. So and opportunity,
That's
right? So there's opportunity there.
Opportunity. All that plus our usual value to the VAR and what's TEConnecting with us. It's time to plug in and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, our guest today, Sean Barrett. He is the channel account manager for Evolis. Sean, thank you so much for being on today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you ended up where you are at Evolis.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me, guys. John, Dean. So my name's Sean Barrett. I've been with Evolis for about 4 years. I have spent most of my life in the printing aspect. So whether that's paper, to card, to any sort of printing application. So I've spent most of my career in that aspect. And what do I like to? I live in the Northeast sector here. I'm located in Rhode Island, so I'm enjoying some wonderful weather this time of year. That'll quickly go downhill probably in about a month and a half. So I'm going to enjoy it while I can. I have a family, enjoy my favorite sport is golf, so I try to get out and play as much golf as possible. So that's pretty much a little synopsis about me. I'm excited about today and the conversations that we're going to have.
And Sean does have one of the best offices. I know for those of you that are listening via audio, you can't see, but just describe your home office there, Sean, in this nice pandemic world.
My home office is, as the entry point into this conversation, has COVID changed the conversation? Absolutely. So now I work at home. Because of COVID, I've had to create an office in my 8-year-old son's bedroom. So
there you go.
Thank God he is off to school right now, but I am performing my daily tasks in his room. So I share my office with an 8-year-old. So hopefully, you never know, there could be something going off during this whole conversation. So we're hopefully going to minimize that, but it is certainly an experience. Yes.
There you go.
Hey, we all had to adapt, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Who hasn't been in their kid's room for a call?
Or, exactly. You got to run into another room for a random call, or the kids in the background yelling and screaming, TV's on or something. Yeah, we're all used to it.
Well, I'm a smart man as well too, because I gave my wife the office, so she works from home as well. So she's downstairs in the office.
Golly,
happy wife, happy life.
That's right.
Ever the politician, absolutely.
There you go. All right. Well, hey, let's get into this conversation about ID and access management. This is something I'm kind of, interested in because I used to be a BDM for RFIDs before I, got into this whole podcasting gig and all this other stuff that I do. So I'm very familiar with the access cards and credential management and what those credentials can do and access for you. So, let's start off, Sean. Give us a little bit of kind of the history of the ID and access management card. Like, how did we get from where did we start and how did we get to where we are right now?
Okay. So I'm not going to bore you with a lot of details, but I'll give you a little quick synopsis. So obviously the biggest thing is this was all created for, you're trying to store some sort of data. whether that's personal data, information, identification, security, biometric, whatever you're trying to do is you're trying to store data. So there are different forms throughout the years that have been created. Obviously, the biggest one that we did encounter was barcode. So barcode is the first level encoding option. You see it on goods in the store these days. A barcode is a machine readable representation of numerical and alphanumeric data in the form of a symbol. And obviously the widths and the spacings between that barcode, and that's where you can encode the data. So that was invented probably about 70 years ago. Obviously, it was a little weird because I actually looked into this, and it was created by a gentleman who heard people over talking in a grocery store about how they could generate product information. And that's how the barcode came about. So then about 50 years later, I mean, not 50, about 50 years from today, we have the UPC, which is the United Product Code, which is standard. And that's one of the biggest ways that we can use that barcode for some type of admittance into a facility or product identification. It's on everything from a gift card to a ski pass to a visitor badge. It has many different applications, so still very popular. It's gone down, obviously, for authentication and identity. It's a little less secure. So within that, they've moved and migrated that to different stages. So now you have the mag stripe. So the mag stripe spent its time in our environment for quite some time. You'll notice it's in the back of your bank card. It's usually black. That can house data. There are 3 tracks located within that mag stripe. And there's 2 different forms of that encoding process. There's a high co and there's a low co. And obviously high co, you're going to find more on your bank cards, swipe technology, access into buildings. And then the low co is a brown. You're going to find that mainly on, say, like a library card. Can pose its purposes, but at the same time, it's not as securitized. It's low form of security. So it's got a low cost solution, but so then we move to the next stage. And that's where the conversation gears to the higher technologies, the smart cards, the contactless. So in this day and age, the 2 biggest ones are either the smart card or the contactless. So smart card is basically what you see on your bank card. It's got a little integrated chip within it, and it can house about 100 times more data than a magnetic stripe. And it can be configured to add, erase, edit any form of data and transmit that back and forth. Obviously, with that, you're going from, say, a mag stripe from a low, cost of a product to a higher cost of product. But within that, you're going to find that highly securitized for bank. Any transport applications is very flexible. It has a high level of security, but it's obviously more expensive. And then on the other side of the coin, so the contactless that's the big hot topic these days. Is contactless really started to move the needle and becoming more popular in the post-COVID era, because people obviously want to be in more distance and want to make sure that nobody's touching anything else. So this new COVID contactless environment has come about. So that card itself is a card, but it's between 2 pieces of PVC. In between that 2 pieces of PVC is an antenna and a small chip. And then basically that PVC is melted back together. Now with that's pretty good at offering tracking assets, people, and obviously it doesn't have it's got that buzzword of being contactless. And I know that Prox cards started that early entrance. Prox cards are limited and they're a read-only function, while basically RFID has kind of encompassed both, and now going to a more of a read-write capability.
Yeah, and it's interesting that over the history, you see security as being kind of the driver of invention here, right? I mean, right, you start off with a simple barcode, right? And that's you can thwart that. You can recreate that. You can do that with a pen. You can write out little lines or something like that. And then I remember back in the day, even today, mag stripes, right? And people were just taking like, tape from a cassette tape and pasting it on and duplicating what you can get off of that. And then obviously security now coming into place with NFC, RFID, what we can do there, right? I mean, it's just a lot more of a secure technology.
Yeah. That and the other big aspect is just the sheer amount of data. There's only so much there's only so much data you can have in a simple barcode. There's only so much data you can have in a mag stripe card. Once you get into those, those smart cards, proximity cards that have that chip in there, then the data set starts getting so much bigger. And we'll get into that later when we start talking about some of the other applications. Again, it's not just as simple as, okay, this has a number that's associated with me that says whether I'm allowed to walk in this door or open this facility or not. You can get so much more robust with the data from there too.
But still a key driver, the security aspect of it and what it brings to the table. And really you're starting, and this is what we're going to get into, you see it in so many different industries now that you wouldn't even think of in the past. But it's whittling down, and there's a need for that security. So anyway,
Exactly. Well, Sean, let's talk about then, what COVID did here. And you kind of mentioned it already, that there is this aspect of, wanting to get more contactless, less, contact points, less touches. Any other ways that COVID has kind of changed the conversation around this for, from what you've heard and seen at Evolis over the last year and a half, going on close to 2 years?
I know it's been that long, my God. But a couple of reasons being, I think number one, the mag stripe is starting to go away. And that's been dictated by the financial markets. So you're going to start to see that mag stripe go away. It's still active, but you're not seeing as much as that because COVID has actually helped transport this contactless environment. It's always been there. It's been a driver, but it hasn't been a driver to this. Now you're seeing different areas that are asking for more of a contactless option here, and that's what's the biggest main driver for it. And as you spoke about, there's so many different applications that we're trying to merge this data into this card that there has to be a different couple ways. So I think obviously COVID puts us in a time period where society wants on-demand, highly securitized, access controlled, combined with POS, personalization, and we've already seen our encoder technology just at this point in the year surpass what we did in 2019 and 2020. So it's bringing it to the forefront of the conversations, and people want this type of technology in their life. And it's because we have so many different applications. It's not just, as you guys stated, it's not just entry into a building. It's, different aspects within that, whether they're using a POS, a time and attendance, service provider. There's a lot going on just outside of the access control.
Yeah, and there's a lot that it brings to the table, just from the access control point of view is, what I think, we've talked about during COVID is, man, so there's the whole contact tracing, right? You have to know where people are when they are. And so, we've seen kind of an explosion in this type of technology through the use of that, whether it's wherever employees are, usually, really in any environment, could be warehouse, could be office, doesn't matter. Right. But knowing where those people are and securing the fact of allowing certain people into certain areas. But I would venture to say, and I'll throw this on top as well with everything that Sean just said, when you have a gig economy like we do right now, you have certain points of a business that, you want to secure the access, number one. You want to know, number two, who's in there for those types of things, whether it's a food delivery person coming in, whether it's a courier coming in to do the last mile delivery and collect packages. I mean, there's a lot of need that has been exploding off of just all the various things that this pandemic has brought on, which are delivery related, contactless related, the explosion of more on the gig economy. I mean, all these things have an influence on the need for access management.
Yep, definitely. One other thing I'll add at here too, and not to put, Evolis out of business necessarily, or at least, where they stand in this whole smart card thing, but the mobile credential is starting to become a thing too.
Right.
And again, it's something that we saw finally take the big shift over the last year. We've talked about this when we've talked about payments, that more and more people started adopting, mobile payments as an option. So those mobile wallets are starting to grow, and you're going to start seeing some of this stuff probably get incorporated. I don't think it's going to be a while, I think, before we get rid of like smart cards or contactless cards altogether. The same way, no one's throwing out their credit cards anytime soon. But, it's one more level that you can still add on top, where we're just finding new ways to use something that we already have, our phones that we're carrying around, to do this same level of access management by using like Bluetooth technology within your phones as well. So,
and when you start going down the path of security and just have that dialogue with folks, so this is why I think resellers really could see some opportunities here, because everybody is concerned about security. Sure, what gets the headlines are the data breaches and stuff that's happening on your computer and stuff like that. But when you just go down another level, it's who has access to some of this these physical properties, who has access to that computer. You can through these technologies, you can control who has those and I guarantee you that's a talk track that people are very interested in understanding what the technology is out there.
Well then, Sean, let's get into your specialty at Evolis, which is the actual printing and encoding of these cards. So what kind of trends are you seeing when it comes to things like quick issuance, when, I don't know, a new employee, or like your example, a contractor, someone who's coming in from the outside for the first time, has got to make deliveries, and you want to give them a security access card so that they can come in and out. But, they don't have time to sit around and wait for you to put together a whole file on them and print out very slowly,
fill out
something.
This form.
Yeah, exactly. They don't have time for that. They need something right now to get moving. Self-service, personalization, all that kind of stuff. What are some of these trends that you're seeing that that is kind of changing this from just a simple card that people are carrying around that might have an ID number or their employee ID or something coded on it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think society has helped us with this as well, as now everything's on demand. Everybody wants something immediately. If it depending on what kind of card you're offering, whether it's a bank card, a identification card, you're going to have to sit around and wait 7 to 10 days. That was the norm 10 years ago. That's not the norm today. The norm is, where's my card? You want me to leave this building and I don't have my card? So I think we're starting to see a rapid increase with that. So our normal channel printer business has rapidly expanded in the last 6 months with more demand for quick issuance with embedded technology for contactless technology. A lot of places, even though everybody's petrified about data breaches, a lot of companies are bringing that in-house. And so they can provide that security printing on premise, allowing for more efficient card issuance and replace cards as needed without having an employee, a student wait 7 to 10 days. About 40% of our business, Evolis's business, is project-based business, which is outside the normal scope of Evolis channel. Our normal, we do have entry-level products all the way up to very complex products. And we've begun to see our kiosk printer business really start to gain momentum. We looked at that and analyzed it about 2 years ago, and we kind of positioned it in 2025 range of where we thought that it would start to gain attraction and slowly start to migrate. Well, with the emergence of COVID, that has suppressed that time frame till now. So we're starting to see, and obviously we always see technology start in other countries. We're a late adapter here in North America. I hate to tell everybody, but we usually are a very late adapter. I went to Europe 10 years ago, and I went on vacation and I tried to get some money out of the ATM in Spain, and I didn't understand why my bank card wasn't working. It's because at that time we didn't have smart card technology. We just simply had an ATM with magstripe technology. Meanwhile, in Europe, they had that implemented years prior. So we're starting to see projects migrate in other parts of the world, and that's going to come here. For instance, in Asia, we've seen implemented kiosk terminals for printing health cards. Middle East, we've seen kiosk terminals for printing authentic debit and credit cards. European universities implementing kiosks for students' IDs, that coexists with what you were always also talking about, digital IDs. So we're starting to see that emergence in North America. I'll bring it back to that conversation you had, is digital IDs. We work alongside with that right now. We understand that, that could be the future, but there's still an extremely relevant, a lot of markets that are not going to go to digital ID. There's various reasons, and we can go over some of the markets that are still seeing that. But that digital ID has to kind of still coexist with a physical ID. So we're starting to see instant issuance and kiosk printers. That's going to start to form, and that's starting to take off here.
Yeah, definitely.
Those are good ones. And, I'm going to go back to the one, because I think we talked about it a little while ago, the cash kiosk, where, you put cash in and you get card out. You're going to start seeing
the cashless, arenas and stadiums that are doing that now.
Yeah. I mean, because I went to Great American here, where the Reds play the other day, and they've gone cashless. Yeah. But we had somebody, Sean was talking about, I guess out in LA, they have, kiosks that they're making out there where you put in your cash and then you get a card out, because there's no place that will accept your cash there. So that is one instance. But it's interesting, when you think about it in the access management. What I'll throw in here is that the cost to do this has come down dramatically. And I think that cost was always one of those prohibitive ones, number one. And then the time variable that you mentioned, Sean, like if you were going to have access control, or if you were going to do gift cards or loyalty cards or something like that, you felt like you had to print a bulk of them, and now you're waiting 7 to 10 days, and then they're going to sit on the shelf and they're maybe going to expire.
Right.
Coming off the Evolis website, you can get a single-sided color card printed on one of their devices for 36 cents. So this is 36 cents per card. I mean, that starts getting into the no-brainer category of being able to facilitate this on site. And that's why I think you're starting to see a lot of interest in this type of solution, because well, now that cost barrier is not as great as it was, and then all the benefits that you get off of it, and you can start leveraging the real-time aspect, the personalization aspect, all those things start coming into play when you can do a card for 36 cents, for crying out loud.
Yeah,
So there you go.
Well, I like what you mentioned also about the idea of ordering out, of of going to a third party, because most of those companies that create these cards have minimum order requirements.
Right.
At the very least, we're talking usually like
sure,
100.
we can do
you got to
it.
order
Yeah,
100 of them, and you're thinking, okay, I only add 5 people, a year to my business in some way. I don't need 100 of these things. It's going to take me 50 years to get through all of those. So or 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is. And to your point, then either there could be expiration, your technology might change. What if you decide, 5 years down the road, you're going to change your access technology. You want a whole different new type of card technology, and suddenly those cards that have been sitting around are completely useless. That's a lot of money you wasted for nothing.
Yeah.
So that's a very good point that, that just being able to do that in-house saves you so much from a perspective of not having to go order in bulk of something that you may not need for very long, or may not need for a very, very long time. And who knows what can happen in the meantime.
Right.
A little box of ID cards in a supply closet somewhere could get lost in no time. Who knows where?
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I know that Evolis does really well, which is on the actual printing side of things, as far as what's on the card. So, and I know this is something that's very important in healthcare in particular. Is one industry I know that really values this, which is, having certain types of color coding, having holograms, some kind of additional security features beyond the actual smart card itself, is to have recognizable and quickly, visually identifiable security features on a card. So like if you're in a busy hospital and there's an area where only certain types of physicians or technicians should be allowed in,
right?
You don't want just, some random janitor or some random, person who's working in the hospital, a candy striper or something, being able to access these areas.
Yeah.
So I know, you do a lot of printing with those cards. It's about, hey, making sure that if someone's doing a quick visual inspection, as someone's walking by, they can easily see like, that hologram is tilting in just the right way where I can see this light glow off of it. I know this person belongs in this department. Tell us a little bit more about that. What are you seeing, and what are people asking for when it comes to that kind of security measures?
So I mean, obviously we got the two sides of the coin. So we're talking about highly securitized encoding the card. So there's two different forms here. So we're encoding the card with, whether it's a magstripe, smart contactless, with information. But then at the same time, people want to have authentic for security purposes, whether that's what you said. So a hologram, an embedded bitmap, something that strikes the eye that knows it's secure and it's original. It's not a counterfeit. So we're starting to see a lot more custom laminations these days where that kind of was dwindling down, but I'm not quite sure what's driving that market, but we've seen a major increase with custom laminations. As you know, that when you use the term custom, anything's going to get expensive. So, but with that, people want to see the authentic, real credential with access into that department, like you spoke about the healthcare. That's a vertical market that is not going to migrate to the digital ID. And that is because healthcare workers usually have 4 to 5 different types of badges. That's granting them access or color coded or hologram to specific areas within the hospital, whether that's be an ICU, an emergency unit, so you'll notice that whenever you see a healthcare worker, they usually will be having 4 to 5 different badges, and all those badges mean something else, or grant them access into a completely different, room or some type of area. So we're starting to see that. I mean, there's so much. Every market has their own specific little niche. Like I know I talked a lot about the bank cards. We do instant issuance. So you're talking about a bank card that has a mag stripe, smart, and a contactless. That's the norm these days. When you get a credit card or debit card, that's the norm because technology is shifting. On top of that, you have 20 years ago, embossing was big. That's no longer needed now. So it's flat card printing, signature panel on the back. I know my MasterCard has that little hologram logo on the corner to show that's a MasterCard. So that's the type of stuff. Student IDs. There are 2 different markets. You have college and university, and you have the K through 12. They're, as much as they're under the blanket of education, their dynamics are completely different. You have education that is trying to migrate more to a digital ID because students are more prone to have a smartphone, but at the same time they still are offering a physical identification because it's got a picture, it's got some sort of either maybe a hologram or some embedded text on it to show that it's original. So these IDs are more focused on getting entrance into buildings and purchases throughout the campus. So we have that. On the other side of the coin, there's K through 12, which is basically their biggest thing now these days is tracking that student from the moment they get on the bus to the moment they get off the bus. And that's only going to increase because people obviously in this type of world we live in, they want to see tracking of younger students. And I think with messages that they're starting to input that there's suicide preventive messages, they're making now mandatory on the back of the card for the messages. And that's gonna happen throughout the next 50 states in the next 2 to 3 years. We've already had, I think, 7 or 8 states come on board this year. So that's going to expand. So there's different messages in different vertical markets. So that's the type of stuff we're seeing, but a lot of people are migrating towards, they want their identification depending on what it is to stick out.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things as you were talking, because, for those resellers that aren't in this world, I mean, obviously there's opportunities out there. And Sean, thank you very much. I think you just did a really good job of kind of laying out different verticals and different uses of some of these technologies, not just the technology that's in there. But one thing I like about Evolis, and I'll give you some props on your website, for those resellers that don't know this world really well, or maybe they talk access control a little bit, they do a great job on their website of walking the reseller through what is it you're looking for. Do you need single-sided, double-sided? They've got this whole WYSIWYG thing, or whatever, whatever. thing on their website where you can kind of select what you need. What are you looking for? What security are you looking for? What's the card lifespan? Really kind of walks you through the whole aspect so you can have that conversation with your end user and say, hey, what are you looking for? What type of access control? Here are the drivers around that decision that you're going to need to make. Really well done. Really well done.
Well, and let's add another layer of opportunity on here,
There you
which
go.
is understanding that, look, these cards, especially these smart and contactless cards, it's not just about building access. I think that's what most of us think of, and it's probably still the predominant use overall, is, hey, I use my card to scan a little reader at the door, it unlocks the door and lets me in, or
Get into an area.
Yeah, maybe you're using it to get into a certain conference room or a certain area that, you have to have specific access to get into. But these cards can do a lot more than that. So, Sean, start telling us about some of the other uses that you've come across in other places where people are using these cards outside of just standard access.
Standard access. So we're talking about time and attendance, POS, which relates to gift cards. That's obviously a large scale business. Tracking, as I said before, K through 12, they want to track those students. That's a huge business right now. Their kids need to be tracked. It's different. You have to look at it too, especially here in North America, where you kind of draw a line right down the middle of in the United States, where you have the lower level southern schools or out west that have open campuses. I know some of these high schools and schools can house 10 to 15,000 students. You got to track that. Where you look in the upper northeast sector or in the north, and they're confined to usually one or two buildings. So you kind of have to look at it. It's access control, it's tracking, and it's authenticating. That's the biggest driver these days.
Yeah, I'd say time and attendance is one of those big ones that we're starting to see a lot of run on because, again, who is it? Where are they? When are they clocking in? When are they clocking out? Because you can produce these cards at such a low investment, makes it an easy one. But not just in warehouses or where large manufacturing is happening. I'm talking small to medium-sized businesses, restaurants, hospitality, these folks, you're clocking in, clocking out.
Right,
Here's a card. You need access to a certain area with a card. But I know you had, some history and access control as well.
So I'll run you through a few more examples that I came across quite a bit at RF Ideas, and probably their two biggest customer types were healthcare and manufacturing.
Yeah.
So in the healthcare side, pretty self-explanatory. It's that single sign-on, or SSO as they refer to it, which is a way to use your card to access a system. So our local healthcare system here in Northern Kentucky, and I probably most of Greater Cincinnati does them too, uses actual RFID readers in order to access their EHR. So if a nurse or a doctor wants to comes into your room and is getting ready to add some notes, update your chart, wants to see your chart, have access to it, they take out their card, they tap a reader, and it immediately gives them access. It provides their username and password. It also provides a trail, basically a security trail identifying, hey, this person
had
accessed records at this time, which is very important in healthcare for HIPAA, for health information security management.
So the janitor can't walk up and just kind of see off the screen.
Exactly.
Oh,
well,
look at this.
And a lot of times they marry it also to walk away type protocols, where when you leave a station, it doesn't take long before it logs you back out.
Lead a proximity if you leave the proximity.
Yeah, like
right?
I mean, because you can use it like with cameras, or you could just have like a timeout after a certain amount of time. If you're inactive, then it logs you back out. And again, and the weird part of this also is, the SSO thing can work like in the office space or anybody who has access to computers where they have a lot of logins for their job. Think about just you in your BlueStar world.
Oh yeah,
how much stuff for BlueStar on a day-to-day basis do you have to log into?
Yeah, right.
So imagine using a card, you just tap it and it logs you into all that stuff because it identifies you for all of it. And believe it or not, they've done the studies. Over time, over the course of a year, you actually waste hours of time just entering usernames and passwords.
Oh, I'm sure. 100%.
You might not think it's that big of a deal.
Oh no!
But over time, you do it. You do it so much, and you're literally wasting time throughout your work here.
Yeah.
So those are two big ones. On the manufacturing side, a lot of it's actually about specified like access to equipment or to start processes. So say you're in a manufacturing facility and it uses they call them PLCs, programmable logic controllers, which helps operate the machinery, identifies what it's supposed to do. Well, again, you want only certain people to have access to that or to kick off those processes. processes at certain times. So their card can be encoded to do that for them. It could be giving them access to equipment like a forklift. You know, you got to have a certain, you know, rating, you know, and a license to drive a forklift. You don't want anybody just jumping up there. So imagine you jump into your forklift
with a certain security level.
Yeah, you hit your badge and it says, yes, you are allowed to drive a forklift. You are up to date on your, you know, certifications, and then you can turn it on and go from there. The POS, when you know, Sean, you kind of mentioned when you were talking a little bit about like college and K through 12 that you'll see this a lot with meal plans. So if a student has a meal plan at a school, they might use their smart card to identify like what their meal plan is and tap in. That way they don't have to actually pay for anything. It's just identifying this student has a meal plan that allows them to have a meal at this time, and they move right along. You know, it's quick and easy. Secure print has become a pretty big one, and this is the idea of making sure that if you're printing something out on a printer, that only the person who is printing it has access to that print job. And we all, if you've worked in an office, everybody knows has had this happen where you've hit print and then you go to look for it and it's not there.
Yeah, right.
You know, which is no big deal if it's just a, you know, some random thing you were printing up. But imagine you're printing up like a list of salaries or confidential information in a lawyer's office. You know, an important document. You don't want that thing just
print
floating off with anybody. Yeah, exactly. You don't have to do that anymore. You hit print, nothing happens until you get there. You tap in and say, I'm the one who put this print job in, and now I'm releasing it. And then it prints out for you. There was actually a stat, I think it was on your site, on Evolis site, doing this kind of secure print, 61% decrease in printouts. So that's how much you're saving on wasted paper where someone else might have picked something up and you have to reprint it, or you print something and forget about it and leave it there. And then, you know, to the other stat I found too, when you talk about the whole, you know, secure access, 80% of data breaches are caused by stolen, weak, or default passwords. Something that's easy to overcome when you can add this level of security in with a card to do it instead, where, you know, you can generate some giant massive password or something. You don't have to remember, your card will remember it for you. And then it's just that extra layer of security you're adding.
Well, and not only that, but two-form authentication as well. You know, using a card or something along those lines is your second form of access. I came across a Forrester analysis that they were doing, and they said 52% of security decision makers say their firm is going to implement two-form authentication to get away from passwordless authentication. Right? They want to get away from that because of everything that you've just illustrated. And so there's another opportunity, I think, here for this, and just knowing that.
Well, Sean, when we before we got on, we were talking a little bit about vaccination proof. Have you had some requests from customers about, hey, how can we, you know, use smart cards to prove, you know, to get proof of vaccination?
You mean there's going to be forgery in that world?
Shocking.
You think? Go ahead, Sean.
Stunning turn of events there.
Yeah. So I think we're still at the beginning of this. I know for me, and we looked at it as, wow, this card looks like it could be a potential big problem 6 to 8 months ago. As you know, it takes a while for society to unveil itself. Now, obviously, COVID vaccination record counterfeit forms are the hottest topic that you can get your hands around right now. So I think as society, we have to figure out, okay, how, especially here in North America, how are we going to deal with this? Because I think we're going to watch this unfold for the remainder of the year. I know in Europe, they've already started with a program that they're going to be printing on a card, because you have, in order for you to get entrance into a restaurant, you have to have a vaccination. I know there are specific laws, and we're going through our tough times here in North America, but this is an opportunity where I foresee them coming down the line here in the United States, either doing a much like, as I talked about the university market, a split, hard card and digital. I think we're going to start to head towards that because, as you know, there are venues, restaurants that are starting to still unfold, where I know that there are concerts in ballparks that are specific, will not allow you entrance into that facility without a vaccination card. And unfortunately, the card itself is, as we're watching, can be easily replicated. Unfortunately, a lot of the thieves are not good at using English grammar and spelling things correctly. That's why they're getting caught. But I think that this is something that's really going to start to come down the pike, and we have to find a solution for it. The government's going to have to, look at this and say, this is potentially a problem. How are we going to deal with this?
Yeah, I mean, right. It's where we started the conversation around security. Yep. A piece of paper that has some black and white ink on it. It's got to be one of the easier forms to counterfeit out there, which is what our current vaccination card is. When you take it all the way up to like a driver's license that's got the hologram on it, and right. It's making it harder to thwart that type of thing. So
it's funny too, and I won't get too far down the rabbit hole on this, but I did come across an article explaining like the question of why are the vaccination cards like the weird size they are. Like they don't really fit in a wallet properly.
Yeah, right.
They're not the size of like a normal credit card.
Where did they come up with that size?
Well, apparently it was just a kind of a random decision. It was just something that someone just did it and didn't really think about that hard about it.
Who is that someone?
I
want to know who
I don't know. But I think the other part of it too was
it somebody at Pfizer? Was it somebody at J&J? Was it somebody at Moderna?
It was probably someone at the government level that thought about doing it. But I think, or the CDC, I guess.
Yeah. CDC, yeah.
And I guess part of the other problem there too was I think in their mind they didn't think it would be that big of a deal. Like whatever, it's just this card indicating that you've got it.
Yeah, old school.
Not realizing that it was going to become this big thing of like, well, we actually might have to show proof of it. They weren't thinking ahead of the fact that like, hey, maybe enough people won't do this that we might actually.
It was a government person because it's like this oversized library card. Now that I think about it,
it's so hilarious. I remember getting that, and I've got it in my wallet. It doesn't really fit right, but it's kind of in there. But it's such a weird thing. So.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah, there it is.
Exactly.
There you go. I recreated this last night, so yeah. No, I have my
$20 if you want one.
Yeah. You can get them anywhere.
Exactly. All right. Well, hey, this has been a good deep dive. I think we've kind of expressed some of the opportunity. We will come back in a moment here quickly though and tell you maybe some more opportunity that Evolis can help you out with there.
Yes, sir.
Before we do that, I do want to, as always, thank our sponsors. We could not do this show without you, and thanks to Evolis for sponsoring this particular episode. Hey, if you like what you hear here, a couple things you can do for us. One, if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating and review. We'd love to hear from you. We want to know what you think of the show. If you watch us on YouTube, hit the like button for this video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, let us know how you feel. You can also reach out to us directly if you have thoughts about the show, topics that you want us to touch upon in the future. Mm-hmm. You can find us on Twitter at TEConnectPod. You can also email us, TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com. All right, let's wrap up as always. First with the value to the VAR. This is where we kind of want to have a little bit of a takeaway for our audience of something they can do immediately. So, Sean, tell us a little bit about how Evolis helps VARs that are looking to introduce this conversation. Maybe, as Jeannie referred to it earlier, maybe this isn't something you normally play in, but you also have a lot of customers where this would be beneficial, or maybe they already are using some kind of card access, or maybe they're just using barcodes at the moment. So how does Evolis help them get that conversation started to get into ID and access management with their customers?
Absolutely. So at Evolis here, we have we have kind of, as I explained, we have two sides of the coin. We have our normal ID channel business, and you can take the most simplistic form of printing. And for instance, like my son belongs to an athletic complex. He's got a card. Very simplistic printing. It's got his picture on it. It's got a barcode. Very simplistic. And then we scale all the way up to these massive projects that we were talking about, where you're taking all this technology, you're putting it into sometimes 3 different forms of encoding, mirrored with a card software, and you're taking different applications and you're trying to marry that into the card. So as much as we basically have a fit for every single need that is out there, from the most infant card printing solution all the way up to the most complex. As much as I say it's about the product and solutions, it's about the people here at Evolis. So we have a designated project team that has a tremendous amount of experience with card issuance and applications. So we have a lot of experience in small, all the way up to large scale deployments. We can work from the beginning of your project throughout development, implementation, all the way through deployment. So we pretty much have every corner where we have a piece of equipment that can fit and fulfill any need that is out there. And we're willing to have any conversations with any VARs out there that think that they can work with us, all the way up to, we have SDKs involved. So it's really the people here at Evolis that help drive it. So they're more than capable of, and as I said before, we're worldwide. So we have stuff that's going into other parts of the world right now, and that's going to migrate here. So we can use that as a reference point. So I like to think it's the people at Evolis that make a big difference with me and my team here.
And I'm gonna lump on top of that, because that's, as a solution provider, and we talk about it endlessly here, John. You got to get the right partners matched up, and when you find a partner like this, and Evolis, who's really focused on this particular product, by the way, and they have some great products around it, but they've got the resources around it. So people, the SDKs, a couple buzzwords that Sean just said there, those are the types of things that you're looking for when you kind of get into this area, and if you're looking to get in this area. And oh, by the way, you should be looking to get in this area, because the need to understand security and how it involves to your end users is there. It's not just the online stuff, again, the software-based stuff, but it's the physical stuff as well. There's a need out there. Your customers are probably interested in it, and there's solutions out there. There's solutions out there for, a few $100s. You can get card printer technology into these locations that are really easy to use. I already mentioned the configurator, which was the word I was looking for earlier, that Evolis has on their website. It's so easy for you to go in there and be the solution provider in this space. It's not as difficult as you might think it is with the software that they have loaded on it. Again, then you have the unit. And oh, by the way, there's recurring revenue there as well, because you can sell them the media on an ongoing basis. So makes a lot of sense if you ask me.
Don't forget the media.
Don't forget the media. Good God, man.
So the only thing I'll add here is, if you're thinking as a salesperson perspective, you should always be thinking about where is their opportunity, or what questions should I be asking 100%. To find opportunities.
Yeah.
I think a great one here is if you have a customer, you're walking in to meet with them, or you're spending some time with it, and you see that they have these kind of access cards, whether they are smart or not already, but if you're seeing them, especially if you see them using an access card to get access to a building, or any other use they might be using it for in their facility, just ask a simple question of, hey, where are you getting your cards from? Are you making those yourself in-house? Are you printing and encoding them yourself? No, you're doing it all third party. How much are you spending on that? Just simple questions like that. Or, hey, I noticed you've got your card you're using for building access. Do you use it for anything else? No. Have you ever thought about using it for single sign-on? Have you ever thought about using it for, point of sale, for, the cafeteria or something like that? Just ask some questions that can kind of lead you down this path that then can help you start that bigger conversation about ID and access management. And if they're not doing it at all,
I was about to say, you got to ask the question, because they're going to start asking those questions of themselves.
Exactly.
How can we secure this stuff that we have? It's going to start happening. It is happening.
Yeah, very much so. All right, well, hey, let's wrap up with our favorite segment, What's TEConnecting with You?
Absolutely.
This is where we get to talk about something in the world of science, tech, innovation that's caught our eye, has our attention, or maybe is terrifying us. If Sean's is the one I think he's going to talk about, it might be more of the latter. So, Sean, what's TEConnecting with you right now?
Yes, kind of terrifying, but it's still intriguing. Obviously, in the news in the last couple of weeks with the Tesla bot, I know that AI has always been out there, and the kind of what scares you is Elon Musk is the type of guy that I fully engulfed in what he's doing. He's really driving technology and bringing it to the forefront. But at the same time, it can be a little scary that, when I was growing up, you always read these books, or, oh my, we're going to be controlled and walking around with robots. Well, maybe that's, coming to more fruition than we think. Hopefully these robots won't be making counterfeit COVID cards. That's one thing that we can, hopefully that won't happen. But I think I'm pretty amazed at the level and how Elon Musk can push things and bring it to the forefront. And the Tesla bot is kind of like, wow, it makes you really sit and think, and this is maybe a lot closer than we thought. So kind of on the fence about it. So it's just interesting. I think.
So help me understand. I've been out of the news, I guess, for a little while here. So Elon Musk launched. I'm online as you've been speaking, Sean. Now I see this reveal that he had.
This prototype they're doing here. So this was something.
Is that a real bot, by the way, that I'm seeing in this reveal?
That's not a working one. It's what it's supposed to look like. I think they have like a.
That's like a dancer,
but it doesn't. Yeah.
Okay.
So first of all, I had a couple comments on this, because this was going to be one of my tech connectings at some point when Sean mentioned he wanted to do it. I was like, all right, I'll let you have it. And I'll piggyback on it.
All right.
So there's an article in the The Verge I came across talking about it, and this one line in particular really just struck me as fascinating. Musk, who has spoken repeatedly about his fears of runaway artificial intelligence, said the Tesla bot is intended to be friendly, but that the company is designing the machine at a mechanical level so that you can run away from it and most likely overpower it. It will be 5 feet 8 inches tall, weigh 125 pounds, and have a screen for a face. The fact that they need to say, hey, if this thing does decide to start murdering people, you can probably get away from it or knock it down.
As long as you're, taller and way more.
As long as you're in pretty good shape, I guess.
The kids out there in the world, forget them.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you got to say that is something.
Wow. Yeah, that's surprising because to your point, Elon's like anti-AI,
right,
in the sense of, hey, we got to be careful here, or else we're just gonna.
Now they did point out that this could go the way of a lot of other things that Musk throws out there on the wall and sees if it sticks. Is just
he's the king of that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But what also cracks me up too is when you look at this thing, and I will put a link to this article in the show notes so you can see the pictures of it.
Okay.
Have you seen the new animated film Mitchell's versus the Machines on Netflix at all?
No.
It looks very much like the robots from that film, which is a quick short synopsis. It's a movie about like an Apple-style company that decides to upgrade their tech from phones to these kind of bots like this.
Okay.
And the old phone, the AI for the old phone, gets a little upset about that it's been replaced. So she weaponizes all of these robots to start taking humans and sending them off into space, basically. It's a fun little family comedy animated film kind of thing.
Right.
But no lie, these robots look just like this, and they've got the whole screen for the face thing.
Got it.
Which really just made me, when I saw this article, go, come on, like... Did you not watch the movie? So anyway.
I'm caught up in this video that I'm watching here of this release. Why would Elon bring out a dancer dressed in this? Oh my God, that's a little bit surreal. I'm with you, Sean. I don't know, man. Is it Armageddon? Is it? Well, it's coming. It's gonna.
Yeah, something will happen eventually.
Talked about Boston Robotics. I mean, they've got.
Something will happen. It's just.
Yeah. It's just a matter of time.
He's got the money and. He's willing to put it out there. So.
Yeah,
that's maybe the scary part. Yeah, exactly.
And I will say, while Elon Musk has, his fleas in a lot of different ways, as far as how he approaches things and what he thinks about things, I will at least give him the credit that he is someone who has acknowledged, like, I don't want this whole AI thing to take over the world and cause the apocalypse either.
Yeah.
So at least if him and Tesla actually move forward with something like this, I can at least feel a little more confident. Like, well, they probably took the precautions necessary to make sure that doesn't happen. Doesn't mean it's a guarantee, but at least they were thinking about it while they were making it.
Right, and so we're involved in associations that actually come up with standards for things like barcoding and stuff like that. So I wonder what that conversation was like. What is the poundage again? I mean, somebody in a room was like, okay, what pounds do we want to say that? 125 pounds. Does that mean like most of the world is more than 125 pounds? How do you come up with those standards?
I don't know. I guess if you introduce some hulking 7-foot robot, that's not going to inspire people with a lot of confidence that they're not going to try to kill us,
Well, yeah, exactly. But why couldn't it have been 5 feet tall then? Why,
Good question.
Oh my Lord. All right, here's TEConnecting with me.
Okay.
What do you think is the world's most booked Airbnb?
Oh man, I don't know.
Where would you be? Where do you think you would be in the world? I stumbled across this and I was like, really? Get out. Keep going. All right.
Is that what it is? It's a treehouse?
It's a little house in the California redwoods.
I was about to say California, but
it is called yes. It's a tiny mushroom-shaped dome in the California redwoods that has been booked. Hold on, what's the number here? I think it's like close to 6,000 Airbnb guests from all over the world have gone to this 100 square foot structure. It's a 100 square foot structure in wherever in the forest.
Like, is it
of
way up
California.
in the trees in the redwoods?
No, but it's like amongst the trees, right? And it's definitely on the ground, but it's like this thing that was built by this lady is kind of like this afterthought. She just wanted a little place, and like this army guy a Navy SEAL, an ex-Navy SEAL went out, helped her build this thing, and then it's just weird looking. It's like this little mushroom dome, but only 100 square feet. So we're talking like whatever, a bedroom size, 10 by 10 room. And it has been the most rented thing. Apparently, it's only been free 2 weeks out of the last 5 years or something like that. And it's not like it's an expensive place, but that is the most visited
the novelty
Airbnb.
Of it.
Yeah, I guess
that makes sense.
It's like. But how do people find out about this? Hey, we want to go somewhere. Oh, now it's like a thing.
Well, I'm sure if you got on Airbnb and searched in that area, like San Francisco area, it's probably like the top hit that comes up or whatever. Want to try this out? I mean, if they're renting it out that much, I'm sure they can pay for some good advertising to bump it up the search,
Yeah, unbelievable. So if you want to reserve it, you got to act now because it's like 8 months in advance right now where you got to reserve this thing. But unbelievable. One room, little mushroom shaped
There you go.
shack in the woods. That's the most visited Airbnb. What's TEConnecting with you, John?
I finally upgraded to the Apple AirPods Pro a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
I had bought some for my wife for her birthday, I think, early in the year, and I admit I was a little bit jealous of them. But, it's one of those things
That
like,
tech envy.
Well, yeah, but it's one of those things like, well, I got it for her, because she didn't have any AirPods yet. She was using like, some other style of, wireless earbuds that just never quite worked as well as I always thought the AirPods did. So I finally made the upgrade myself, and I didn't realize how much of a difference from the standard AirPods there would be, and how much I would enjoy the difference.
Oh, really?
I think the biggest thing is it's got noise cancellation, or at least noise reduction, which, believe it or not, works so much better than you would think. Like you can easily turn it on and off, and you can tell the difference. Like my example is, I love to, I always have earbuds in when I am mowing the lawn, for instance.
Okay.
I want to listen to podcasts usually, but most of the time when I would mow with my old earbuds, the lawnmower at times would just get too loud, and I could, if the hosts were talking quietly, even if I cranked up the volume, I still couldn't quite hear it. These, I can hear it all the way through. No matter
Really?
what.
No problem.
Love that aspect of it. I also love that Siri will read text messages, just come in and read text messages to you over the AirPods while you're just doing something. So you'll just randomly be listening. It'll mute your audio turn off the audio for a moment and say, hey, so-and-so has sent this message, and it even waits a few seconds to let you reply if you want. So just
that's pretty
very
cool.
simple, no like massive bells and whistles for these, but just something I'm really appreciating.
And they stay in your ear. See, I have these freakishly small ears that earbuds typically don't stay in.
Well, they
it's
have
the joke
little,
of the family.
They have the
by
little
way.
soft,
that
things
doesn't
to do,
work.
and they give you like 3 sizes of them. But I haven't had any issues with them yet.
Yeah, right. Well, anyway, that's why
I don't know about you.
I got to do the over-the-ear ones.
Oh, gotcha.
And plus the fidelity. Although I hear that's getting a little bit better. Like the bass response. I'm an audiophile. I like to feel the bass in my ears. So I usually like the over-the-ear ones.
I'm sure there's higher quality out there.
Of course, I can't go on my run with these over-the-ear big ones. So I do have the littler over-the-ear ones. But anyways, with the fidelity's there, you like it? The sound quality is good?
Yeah,
all right.
I think so.
Maybe we'll have to give
give
Marco a pair so that he can give us the official audiophile thumbs up or down. Oh, money. Yes, of course. Yeah. What do those things go for anyway? $290?
Almost $200.
Yeah. Oh, $200?
I think I got mine on sale for like maybe $170, $180, something like that.
That's not bad.
It's not terrible.
Even with the word pro behind it, that's
Even
like
with pro behind it, yes.
instant, jack up the price $50.
Exactly. All right. Hey, Sean Barrett, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciated having you on the show.
Appreciate it, gentlemen. Thank you very much, Sean. Thank you very much, Dean.
No problem.
Have a great day and enjoy the rest of it.
There you go.
Well, hey, until next time, folks, watch out for the 5'8", 125-pound robots. They are coming to you any day now. And until next time, stay connected. Evolis is the world's leading direct-to-card print manufacturer. In fact, about 2 million cards are issued by Evolis printers every day in more than 140 countries. Known for their reliability and innovation, Evolis card printers are instrumental in identifying the people and things that matter. Evolis printers can instantly deliver personalized cards with photographic quality and optional data encoding. Magnetic stripe, smart card, with or without RFID, to meet your customers' specific requirements. The Primacy printer produces ID badges, payment cards, transit passes, gift cards, and more on demand. To learn more, check out the link in the show notes or contact your BlueStar rep today to identify with Evolis. Now more than ever, organizations are requiring sophisticated access control solutions. Evolis, the world's leading direct-to-card printer manufacturer, has solutions to fit any card-related access control scenario. Their open SDK is perfect for custom applications, and their 7 different encoding options cover any card requirement in the marketplace, from basic mag encoding to complex UHF. Whether your customer's access control requirement includes contact or contactless, simple ID cards, multi-purpose cards, or something else, Evolis has you covered with their newly expanded range of self-service kiosk printers. If you are an ISV or system integrator in the access control arena, contact your BlueStar rep today to identify with Evolis.